If you can really sing, I'll pay every one of your mother's bills myself.
The host said it with a smile, not a kind one. The audience laughed before Elena Carter could even respond. She stood frozen under the lights in a faded dress she had borrowed from a neighbor, her fingers trembling at her sides, her shoes so worn they looked like they might fall apart before she even reached the piano. Elena was only 21. By day, she worked at a diner, pouring coffee for strangers who barely looked at her. At night, she cleaned grocery store floors until her back ached and her hands smelled like bleach. Then she'd go home to a tiny apartment where her mother lay sick in the next room, too weak to work, too weak to pretend everything was going to be okay. Her father had died years earlier in a construction accident. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. All he left behind was an old upright piano with chipped paint, broken keys, and a sound that should have been too damaged to mean anything. But to Elena, it meant everything. It was the last place she could still hear her father's voice. When she was little, he used to smile at her from that bench and say, "One day, Ellie, that voice of yours is going to carry you farther than I ever could." She held on to those words through every unpaid bill, every hospital visit, every night she cried quietly so her mother wouldn't hear. Elena never sang because life was easy. She sang because it was the only thing that made the pain feel survivable. Then one night, while she was playing during a free church supper for extra tip money, someone finally stopped and truly listened. Her name was Miss Evelyn, a retired music teacher with kind eyes and a voice that sounded like she had seen hard times too. After Elena finished, Miss Evelyn looked at her and said, "Child, that voice was never meant to live and die in a room this small." A week later, she came back with an audition flyer for America's Rising Star. Elena said no. She said she had no money, no dress, no chance. Miss Evelyn took her hand and said, "You don't need a chance. You need one moment for the world to hear what strength sounds like." And now, Elena was sitting in front of that piano. The host was still smirking, the judges still looked doubtful, the crowd was still whispering. Elena placed her shaking hands on the keys, took one long breath, and opened her mouth to sing.